Welcome to Scenario 4, where we will continue with the theme of UTIs. For this question, you have a 25-year-old patient who is presented with 5 UTIs in the last month. With each UTI, she has noticed that it's occurred directly after sexual intercourse. What would you recommend? Now, NICE has a really helpful flowchart on recurrent UTIs, and it would be my advice that you definitely have a read of this if you haven't already. Now, in this scenario, we have a young female patient who has experienced recurrent UTIs with an obvious trigger. So the first line advice should always be to discuss behavioral and hygiene measures with the patient. And this would include avoiding douching and occlusive underwear, wiping from front to back, avoiding delays in urinating, especially postcoital urination, and you should also ensure that the patient has adequate hydration. So if those following changes do not work, what would you recommend? So in this scenario, we have a really obvious trigger. So you should consider that the patient should take a single dose antibiotic prophylaxis for every time the patient has engaged in sexual intercourse. So the first line choices would include trimethoprim at 200 mg stat or nitrofurantoin at 100 mg stat. And then you would arrange to follow this patient up after 3 to 6 months. As a side note, it's also worth noticing that if the patient was postmenopausal, then you would offer vaginal estrogen directly after behavioral and hygiene measures and before you offer prophylactic antibiotics. I hope you found this scenario useful. This podcast is hosted by wellmedic.co.uk. We help GP trainees pass the AKT.